Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to HMG News Network, broadcasting live here in the Greater Washington metropolitan area. I am Freeman Bikorwa Singirankabo, and I'd like to give you all a huge welcome as we discuss various news and information happening right now. In particular, this afternoon, we are going to continue to discuss and talk about the dire situation of the internally displaced and survivors of the Hurricane Dorian down in the Bahamas and the Bahamas island. And I'd like to welcome you all to all our different platforms that we are streaming live right now as we speak. And just before I forget, for those of you who are tuning in for the very first time, please click right underneath there, wherever it said, right where it says subscribe, share, and follow, so that you can be able to receive all the latest news and information that we are disseminating and broadcasting all in real time. And so right before we get started to our broadcast, our special broadcast for the Bahamas dire situation across the ocean in Zimbabwe, we just found out that the former president, Robert Mugabe, has just died this past Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. He died in Singapore, right where he was being hospitalized. And it is our understanding that the body is still in Singapore right now, and it is waiting for a transfer back to Zimbabwe. And the president of the current of Zimbabwe, Mr. Emerson Mnangagwa, has declared the former President Mugabe a national hero. And he has also ordered days of mourning before he's given a state burial. So we like to pass on our condolences to the people in Zimbabwe for the loss of your former president, but also to the family of the former President Mugabe, our condolences as well. So as we jump right back into this dire situation in the Bahamas, guys, this is not a television show. This is not a movie. This is happening. It is happening to the loved ones, families, people just like you and I right now. I think about it since last Saturday when we initially found out what was happening there. From Saturday up until now, it's literally a week. The people who got hammered by this catastrophic Hurricane Dorian are homeless. These are what they call internally displaced refugees. Oftentimes you hear of this word being utilized in Africa and Middle East, where they have been fighting because of war. But being a refugee or an internally displaced refugees does not require you to be under a violence of guns. These folks are completely homeless. They've become refugees in their own countries. The worst part of it, they barely have help. Those who have yet been rescued, we're not sure whether they're still alive. But we have been focusing and we've been receiving images and information and news gathering from at least these 5 to 6 major islands in the Bahamas, minding you or letting you know that Bahamas is a huge place with 700 plus islands. And thus far, the information of which have been circulated throughout the internet, throughout cable and satellites, are mainly coming from these 6 major islands there. So imagine what happens or what's happening to the rest of the islands. We know the Hurricane Dorian has not discriminated on where it passed. So we're praying for the lives of those who have yet to be rescued. I remember back in Rwanda, where I was born, when we were going through our own tragic experience of such a despicable nature. We also became internally displaced refugees. But unlike today, we didn't even have a way to ask for help. Thank God for the internet. Thank God for communication. Today, information is flowing back and forth, even though not as efficient as we would like it to be, but at the very least, people have been rescued because they were able to put a word out there. For us, as I recall when I was just a boy, we went days and days and days and days with no help whatsoever. So this is not a funny situation, and this is not a movie, because I know that for some people, this is an entertainment right now as we speak. There is a human flesh that's breathing for the very last breath on this earth. Someone who has yet to be rescued, who's stuck. So I want to urge you, I want to bring it to your attention, all of you guys who are more than able to help. Please do help. Do help these wonderful people and families in Bahamas. Hurricane Dorian has not discriminated as to whether you are a black person, a white person, an Asian, yellow, purple, or whatever it is, or however it is that you identify yourself as. It has swept the whole entire region. Many deaths have already been identified. And unfortunately, the death toll is just rising. This refugee situation that we have just around the corner, next to the United States, let it not be another Rwanda, another Katrina, another Sudan, another DRC. And I know that some of you have never heard of Sudan, for example. You have never heard of the DRC, the Democratic Republic of the Congo. I know that some of you have heard of Rwanda, right where I was born. But know that irrespective of the geographic location, an internally displaced refugee is just another human being like you and I. They have not chosen to be in the Bahamas when Hurricane Dorian passed through. But I know also that they rather be right where they were and have become someone else's burden. It is not fun being a refugee. I've watched the whole entire networks. I have yet to see a single network that calls it for what it is. This is more than a humanitarian crisis. You have people who have not had something to eat for days, who have not taken a shower, the things we take for granted. Imagine the diseases fermenting right now in the Bahamas. The entire infrastructure for these hardest hit islands have completely collapsed. Just to give you a perspective, almost a quarter of the entire population in the Bahamas is in distress, not a quick emergency, an actual distress as a result of this catastrophic Hurricane Dorian. We have so many wonderful people from so many countries. We are so grateful that you are helping and you've taken action to help these wonderful people in the Bahamas. But who amongst you will also extend the hand and welcome them in your own countries. I remember in Rwanda when the war started in 1990, the majority of the whole world learned of the war only in 1994, 4 years after the war had started. People were dying days after days after days. But because there was not a cell phone, there was barely any coverage news-wise. Nobody ever heard of anything before 1994. Very few people did who followed. So let us make sure that the Bahamians and every single individual who got caught up in this catastrophic Hurricane Dorian doesn't perish unnecessarily. Every single life of those people, these families, matter. Let us not have all these countless meeting strategies on how to help them. When you're in distress, you're in distress. You just want to get out of the distress. Let's not have days of meetings trying to strategize who does what and when to do what. Think about in Rwanda. If we had help, could all those lives have perished like that? I don't think so. If there were enough journalists, enough cameras, enough cell phones to capture and broadcast images showing in real time what was happening, could it have been different? I say yes. So do not discount these images that you are seeing. Take an action on your own. Speak on those voiceless lives. Remember, those who've been rescued are at least able to breathe. Think about the lives of those who have yet to be rescued. They're counting and counting and counting on so many of us to find them, especially when we don't even know how to begin. So with the effort from various government agencies from all over different countries working together trying to help out, we know that it's not an easy undertaking, but we can do it. I was just thinking yesterday how the majority of people normally help on the very last minute. How many Bahamian lives, for those who were living in the Bahamas, how many of those lives have to perish before countries open their doors and welcome them? All the help that's being concentrated to go towards the Bahamas. Grab those people, take as many as possible, get them out of the harm's way. Even if it is a temporary assistance, they just need an assistance. I'm in the United States right now. Look how big the United States is compared to how big the Bahamas collectively is. Look at the state of Florida, just the state of Florida. A few miles, about 100 miles away. You're right there in Freeport, Grand Bahamas, in the Bahamas territory. Given the dire, catastrophic situation that they are in, can we open arms and help these people? It is great. It is fantastic to bottle up some water, some canned beans, some things, some of these basic needs that they are going to need because they no longer have it. But where are they going to be? Most of the infrastructure is destroyed. Where are you going to put 100,000 families if their land has completely been swiped? It's underwater. Is Nassau, the capital, going to take in all those people? It is not realistic. So let's see the lives. Let us not see countries first. Let's see a life. Because when I was a kid in Rwanda, I never knew, first and foremost, my ethnicity as it was being broadcasted on the world stage. I never knew that there was such a thing as a selection of what tribe you had to be in or you were in order for you to get some help. When we were fleeing on foot for miles and miles and miles, I don't recall asking or being asked where I belonged before 1994. I certainly don't remember seeing a camera from a journalist. I do not recall seeing anything beyond the same old people who were just in distress like we were. I remember us walking for hours and days with no food. Just a child. So when you see these images in the Bahamas, people saying they need help, that is an understatement. Please do help these folks. The gruesome images you think that you are seeing, you have yet to see. Their situation is far more dire than what it is, than what the journalists are showing you. Most of which you cannot stomach it if you saw it. You have to be on the ground to really appreciate the urgency and the dire situation that these families are going through. I can relate because we were there at some point. Their lives do matter. Let's not treat them as a stock. That if they don't have something we can trade with, their lives don't matter anymore. They have a baby who has the same aspiration as your baby. They have a son who has the same aspiration as your son. They have not asked to be in the location where Hurricane Dorian happened to pass by, but they did. So they must not define their lives based on their own personal economic status, especially right now that it's zero. These are wonderful, beautiful families, just like yours and mine. So let's help them. Let's do it better than what we did in Rwanda back in those days. And let's not flip the channel because it's not sexy. These are real lives perishing by the seconds, by the minutes. when some of us are just going to party, when we're just enjoying ourselves, life continues. I know and I feel what they're going through, because this for me is just another memory coming back. And I tell you, I would never, never, never wish that any of you would experience what they're going through right now. They need so much help. So much help that a camera cannot do justice. Unpacking all the needs that they have, not to say wants, needs. I was watching some images where someone was asked how they have been sleeping. And she was pointing on the floor, and the journalist was a little shocked. The floor is a luxury right now for most lives. Imagine if you're stuck in a house full of dirty water. A Marine can get to you. Royal Forces of the Bahamas can get to you. Nobody able to get to you. What do you say of those families who are still stuck right now? Yet for some, they're sleeping on the floor. You can't compare the two. So again, I have asked, please take some time and self-educate yourself on what it means to be an internally displaced refugee. And you might as well add on a survivor. Because these families are not just internally displaced refugees, but they also have just survived the most horrific experience in their whole lives. Think about the trauma. A child who's 2 years old, 3 years old, or a young adult who's 20 years old, or a grandpa or grandma who's 60 or 70. Think about what they're going through right now. It is difficult, and it is very, very challenging. Let's not have another Rwanda. 100,000 people. It's a lot. I've heard the estimates from the United Nations where they estimating around 70,000 people from Grand Bahamas, one of those islands. Guys, stop kidding yourself. The situation is very difficult, very dire. It can be addressed as humanitarian crisis, just so that it feels sexy on the televisions. But there's nothing sexy about a life perishing every second, every minute. No matter how you want to package it, it does not change the fact that a life, it's perishing every single minute that's being wasted for whatever reasons. We're living in such a rich and wealthy hemisphere with powerful nations around the Bahamas. So personally, the expectations is that not one single life has to perish, because there is capacity to help every single one of them. Literally, every single one of them could be helped. However, History is going to judge how long it's going to take for these families to receive help. I am waiting to see how long it's going to take for these neighboring countries to say, hey, we value your lives. Please welcome to our country. Come, let's give you a pillow to sleep on. Come, let's give you some water to drink. Come, let's give you a bath to take. Some of them haven't taken a bath or shower for a week. But that's not the emergency. Right now, all they want is to just be breathing. Never mind whether they haven't taken a shower, because back in those days, we were grateful to just smell the air. I remember we couldn't even complain to our dad. There was nothing to complain about. My brother, who was maybe 4 years old, think about a child who's 4 years old, just walking on his own 2 feet, going foodless for hours and days, sharing a little teeny small bag of sugar as we were walking, because that's all we had, a small bag of sugar. You will remove it and everybody else wanted to have some. Think about what these brothers and sisters, these families are going through in the Bahamas. Some of them can't even have that little small bag of sugar right now as we speak. It's a luxury for them right now. So for those of you who have heard on the televisions yesterday talking about the situation, it's yet to be crazy or whatever words that you've used. Someone used the word desperation. He said that they were really desperate for help. None of them. Desperation was last Saturday, a week after. I don't know whether we have a word to express what they're going through right now. But for every single day, every single hour, every single minute, and every single second that they do spend without being rescued, that's one life less potentially that's perishing. So let us not talk dollars before we talk rescue. Let us not see whether they're black or white before a helicopter, before a boat, before an effort is dispatched for rescue. These lives matter. This is someone's daughter, someone's son, someone's father, someone's mom, who just wants to breathe, who just wants to live, who just want to follow their dreams, just like you and I today. Let's be kind to them. Let's be generous to them. They need every help that they can receive. I know that you will overcome it, brothers and sisters, families down in the Bahamas. Hang tight, hang in there. Please share with us your stories. We are going to run every one of your stories that we can get our hands on. Let's not have another Rwanda just right there in the Bahamas. Literally, let's not have another Rwanda right next door. It would be beyond shameful. All these powerful countries next to the Bahamas. And lives perishing by the minute, by the hour. And someone would have the audacity to say that there just wasn't a way to help them. So I appeal to you guys. I appeal to all of you loved ones, all of you people, all of you wonderful, wonderful, good-hearted people all over the world watching this right now. Please roll your sleeves. Let's help these people. Let's see some action. Let's see some real coordination and get these people some help. Who amongst you are going to welcome them in your own countries? It is going to take more than a day, more than a week, more than a month to restore their homes, to restore their livelihoods. Are they going to set up tents right by the beach? Where are they going to go? We have to lead them off the islands, especially those in dire situation. I know that their government will not be able to handle the volume as it is right now. So I pray and hope that not one single of you would talk about immigration this and immigration that over a life that's perishing. These invisible borders that we have perpetuate the death or contributes to this death that we are experiencing. We are seeing images after images after images. We are more than capable to help someone in distress, in a dire situation, in a life and death situation. So let's extend an arm of love to them. For those of you who would like to get in touch with us, this channel we are going to speak, we are going to pull out your stories. Please use our WhatsApp communication. Get in touch with us, but we will not stop speaking of your stories either. Especially that some of us, we've been where you were. It's a little personal to me. It's a little personal to most of you who are watching this. So I can't just flip the channel. I can't just go to sleep and say kumbaya. Oh well. I pray that God helps them. These families don't need prayers only. They need actions. So yes, please do pray for them, but also do take action and help them, because they are going to need every single help that they can get their hands on. I want to leave you with this. If it was you right now, stuck over in the Bahamas, what would you be saying? What would you be doing right now? If it was your daughter, if it was your son, if it was your father or your mother, if it was your grandpa or your grandma, how far would you go to rescue them? How much noise would you make to help them? How much money would you remove out of your bank account to help them? How much love would you extend to them just to see them breathing another breath of life? I remember praying so many prayers. asking God, oh God, help us, help us, help us, help us, help us. God did help us. You see me today, I'm alive. But the experience that we've gone through, the memories that are stuck in my mind, a whole lot of it. So please, let's show some love. For those of you who just tuned in right now, I just want to welcome you and let you know that the Bahamas needs each and every one of us. Thank you. This has been Freeman Singirankabo, broadcasting live. Have a great weekend, y'all. Please do remember to share, subscribe, and follow. And we will be speaking of your stories day after days after days. Thank you.